everybody. Welcome back to Spurverse, my scale model universe. People of Earth, you have crash landed into part 2 of Build the Spindrift from Land of the Giants. Not the Polar Lights tragic little one, but a pretty hefty one. And if you haven't seen part 1, please go back and check it out, because it'll make a lot more sense. But if you want to stick around, of course you're welcome. And we are sort of progressing, you know. I'm always sort of trying very hard to do my best to do some modeling and some show and tell, and not all show and tell, because I know some of my audience likes me to keep my mouth shut and keep modeling, and others like the updates the way I progress them. But you know, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and all are welcome. So I thought we would dive into part 2. Rather than going, look what I've done, we're going to sort of talk about lighting that cockpit, because as I have said in my previous updates, this is the Randy Cooper interior for this model. It does not come with an interior, and if you want the interior, you've got to go to Randy Cooper's website, and you can pick it up there. He has 2 versions. He has a complete sort of upgrade version, which includes some detail parts, which I think you would like for the exterior. And then he's got detailed, obviously a beautifully detailed interior that, I kid you not, when you put that thing together, take a photo of it, it'll look like a set. People will not know that you're inside a model. I kid you not. It's that good. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm preparing the lighting for the frame that sits around. It's a girder. It's classic Irwin Allen. It's in the Flying Sub. It's in the Seaview. It's this. It's even in the Jupiter 2. It's this classic girder from the 60s that is it's structural, and in it I'm putting 3 little LEDs. I've got a cold white for the front, which is going to illuminate the control surface, and I've got 2 ambers for the left and right, just to wash out the sides of the panels. I'm not doing much more than that. I might have a blinky for the door that, well, you'll see it in this picture. This is a photo from Randy that I have of his interior. And you can see that there's quite a lot of detail going on there. Now, I'm not going to be that detailed in this version because, alas, you don't see it. I will be going into that much detail for the build of the interior, which I will do sometime next year. I won't get to it this year, but there's a lot to see if you're able to see it. We can only see what's through the windows, so I'm going to have the girders do some downlighting for me, and I might put a little light in those opaque side panels that you can see that are to the front of the cockpit there, left and right of the pilot and co-pilot seats on those walls. They might get a light too. I'm not sure. But I've got my genius little press here, and if you're trying to do straight drills, I don't know about you, when I've tried to drill something with a Dremel with my hand, it's always at an angle. So if you want something dead straight, you need a little drill press. Mine comes from Micromark. Any drill press will work, I suppose, but the big large ones that you can get from a hardware store or from your big box stores, they're too big for this operation. You need something like this. So the Micromark machine tools are perfect for it. Anyway, so that's what we're doing. We're drilling. So I'm going to put my drill on here, forgive the noise, and down we'll go. And we'll go all the way through. And it's that simple. And so we can clean that up. Now I know what you're all thinking. What has he got? It looks like a little blow dryer, but it's not. It's a handy little vacuum that I found while I was chugging through TikTok. Now, I am an absolute victim of marketing, so when something like this comes along, I go, hey, you know what? Why not? But as I've always said to you, sometimes I like to feel like I'm a bit of a test kitchen and play with things. So, you know, this is not a terrible thing to have for your bench. Yes, you can get a little dry vac. Yes, you can use a little vacuum cleaner. You don't need one of these. But if you're a gadget geek like I am, this is great to have for your bench. I've got other vacuum cleaners, but I want to pull them all out just for something like this. So it has really good vacuum. It's easy to remove and empty, and I love it. So there you go, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, let me remove this, and let me actually. I don't need this anymore, so I can get rid of it. Take it off the bench. Okay, so what we've got here is my little 1.8s and just regular LEDs. I've, as you can see here, I've drilled out and cleaned out 2 of them, and now I'm working on this one. And I'm just going through it. And I don't know about you, but I keep several size of these little pin vices on my desk. I don't want to spend the next 30 years changing out bits. They're not that expensive, and it makes my builds, I don't know, for me, just a lot more fun. Do you need several of these? Absolutely not. But I do. Okay, so that's almost through. I've just got to punch that through a little more here, just so that it's nice and clean. See that pop right out the top? That's perfect. So there we go. And then what I'll do now is I'm just going to come in here with my handy dandy little blade, just to kind of clean that up a little bit, and then I've got a couple of these files that I'll use. And I should have now enough room for that to drop in, and I do. And we can test that. And there it is. And so I've got 2 ambers on either side, and I'll have a cold white in the middle, and that should provide me with a decent amount of light in that cockpit, just to, just for curiosity. I don't want to flood the whole thing, and I'm not going to put bells and whistles in it because you won't see them. I might put a couple of flashies in. I don't know. Evans makes all kinds of wonderful lights. And if you're not into expensive lighting kits and you don't want to spend the money on them, Evans has some wonderful stuff. These are SMDs that come in 3 sizes, chip, pico, and nano. This has a flasher chip on it, and it's already resisted. So you can run up to 9 volts through this. Actually, up to 12 volts, I think, if you get the right ones. But here, look, check this out. And you can use these for, they're wonderful for even for nav lights on spaceships and all kinds of things. But this is just 3 volts running through it. And look at that. Now, they've also got kits that you can get that have different colored chip lights. They're all connected, and it's like a Christmas tree, and you can randomly attach those to different panels on your control surfaces, and it makes them come alive. So if you are not doing complicated setups and you just want a few blinkies in your model to come alive, it's a great way to go. So I'm playing with those. I just want to see how much I really want to do with the cockpit. I don't know how crazy I want to get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire these up, get some resistors on them, get them in here, and then what I will probably do is use a little bit of my solar res, my curing, my little, my light curing solar res, just to put some lenses on here, and to hold these in place, wire these in place after I've cleaned this up a little more and painted it so it's ready to go. I don't have to mess with it anymore, and then that will be lit, and I'll be ready to just install this when I'm ready to go. There's one other blinky. If I have a little chip, I don't know. I'll see if I've got one in stock. I may put something on the on the door. Here, you can see it in this shot here. There's that little door switch. Now, there's a decal for that, but I'm going to save mine for my other build. So I'm not sure what I'll do with that one, but I will. I'm thinking about putting a blinky in there. I've got some. I do have some decals as well, which I could potentially use for the sides there, but I don't know. We shall see. Okay, so that's where we are. Glad to have you aboard for this update. We're going to continue with lighting. We're going to detail out our cockpit. We're going to try to get to a place where we can do final install and seal it all up, because that's only then can I really paint the exterior. Now there is an argument to getting a coat of paint on it before you seal it all up, just to get into the cracks and things like that, and I may certainly do that. And and also, to solve the window problem, we didn't talk about this last time, but we should have. To solve the window problem, and I haven't sanded this yet, I've left this alone, but I've got these blocks that come with the Randy Cooper interior. Now, I believe that the reason why these are given to you is because the way he's built the interior, the first window panel doesn't reach the exterior panel of the skin of the ship. So he gives you these blocks here to add. But what I've realized is that is all I need to create the the beefiness that I need for this panel. So it's perfectly contoured, and it sits perfectly in the ship like that. And that solves my window problem. And it's perfect. So I couldn't be happier with that. And then what I can do is I can add, now I've got various versions of this diffusion sheet styrene. It's really good stuff. And what I most likely will do is just add that to the back of the window, and then put some LED strip lighting behind it. But I think you'll see here, I can show you, let me show you here. I can show you that whoa, flew out of my hand. I think you'll agree. So that's what you'll see in the finished model, and then I can light them up like that, so they look like the lights are on. So that'll work out really well. So I'm really I'm happy with that. You know, it's fun, and I'm really excited about this, and I can't wait to show you what I have planned for the diorama. And I can't take full credit for it. I have to give credit to my dear friend, the great Lou Del Meso over at Aztec Dummy, who on the phone the other day suggested it to me, and it just rung a bell. So I'm pretty excited about it. But we'll talk about that when that stuff arrives and we look at what this behemoth of a model is going to sit in. Okay, stick around and we will progress this build. Progress. Okay. When I decided that I was going to build this Spindrift the way I'm building it, it's for a very good reason. And again, you know, I'm repeating myself, but some of you just skim through this. You know, you stick around for a few minutes, and when you get bored, you leave. You know, it's okay. Break a man's heart. I'm teasing. This model has a beautiful interior designed by Randy Cooper that you can get separately, as I've mentioned ad nauseum. But when you stick it inside this and close everything up, you lose so much of the beauty of Randy's interior set. So I'm building the exterior with the cockpit because the windows are very large. You'll see the cockpit. And I'm going to save the interior complete build. Whoops. I'm going to save the interior complete build for a separate build, which I'll do next year. But the cockpit is coming along really well, and you'll see all of this. So what I've got here is I've got my lights installed, the girder is installed, the seats are installed. I've built a door. Now, curiously, in looking at the pilot episode, I didn't realize the door is sort of that wood grain. It's not the color of the walls. So I've built myself a wood grain wall, which I'll show you. The lights are on, so that's really good, and it's coming together really well. Let me just put a little bounce cover on this before I switch to my roving camera. I used to call it PhilCam, but it doesn't come out much anymore. But for this project, it's out. So let's let me just make sure I've got it functioning here before I switch you over. Yeah, perfectly. Okay. All right. Forgive the shakiness. I'm going to try. Actually, no. Why does it have to be shaky? It doesn't have to be shaky. Hang on. Hang on. It does not have to be shaky. Let's see if I can get this to cooperate here. Sorry, I should have done this sooner, but all right. Well, it won't be too shaky. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. So there's the interior, and it's looking really good. Now, obviously, I've got all my light leaking back there, which I'll clean up. But it's looking like a really nice interior. And what I'm loving is how the amber lights are really washing out of the controls. But the cool white light is going to drop down on my control surface, which is right here. And let me see if I can put this in here. without being all fingers and thumbs. So when it's in, you lose everything below and you gain everything above. So obviously we'll tip the camera angle up and you get that. Pretty good. Now the side lights are not on yet, so I'll be working on those. But that interior is going to be it's going to be an absolute thing of beauty. Absolute thing of beauty. So I couldn't be happier with that. Let me just get my phone out of the way here. There. It's fun to be able to do that. I'm thrilled we can. Okay, so that's the cockpit. Super happy with it. I've got a few more things I have to do. There's a girder right here. This girder here, which will sit. It sits right here, and it attaches itself to the top of the nose of it, and that'll go in too. It's quite prominent in the pilot episode, actually, so that's pretty good. So I'm super thrilled with this. It's coming together really nicely. I'm going to try and keep it, as I said, as simple as possible. Now, my Evans lighting kit, as I film this segment, has not arrived yet, so I can't do it all together right now, but I've got a little bit of work to do anyway. I've got my teardrops and my rear engine pieces here, which are ready to go, and I've got my fins for the front of the nose section ready to go, so that's all good. And I've decided to go with the clear dome. I've got to do just a little bit of trimmage around here, and I may give this just a light dusting of Tamiya's clear red, or maybe even the orange, perhaps even the orange. I don't know. I don't want to do it to where you can't see the grid that goes inside. And it's interesting because depending on whether you're looking at the filming miniature or whether you're looking at the practical set, they're all different. And it's no surprise to anybody, but you just got to pick which way you want to go. Now, my ship is going to be displayed as if it has already crash landed on the planet, which will give you a little idea of where this diorama is going, and it's going to be a beefy thing. But that's kind of the way it's going to be displayed, and I think they've just arrived. So I don't have a lot of people milling around outside. The door won't be open. There won't be that little stepping stool thing inside, at least right now. Maybe down the road I can certainly print some figures out or find some figures and do that. But right now I'm not doing it. I'm just want to get this beautiful thing finished and sitting in some kind of a display. So so that's where we are. It's all progressing quite nicely. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get back to the exterior of the ship. I'm going to clean that up. I'm going to do some more, just one more round of light sanding. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give the whole thing a coat of its orange paint. I've mentioned this a little earlier, but I do think that it's a good thing to get as much of it down now, so that I don't have to start masking a lot of stuff. I am going to have to do a little bit of touching up, I suspect, but that's okay. I think I can get the bulk of it done, and there's a lot to do. It's a big kit, so I don't really want to have to fight with it once I've got the dome in and everything else. That would not be good. So I'm going to do that. And then what we'll do is we'll drop this interior in, and we'll close it all up just temporarily and take a look at what that looks like. I think you'll get a kick out of it. So stick around. I made some slight modifications based on a conversation I had with Randy Cooper, realizing that the actual windows of the cockpit were incorrect. Now, I had pointed this out earlier, and I had made some adjustments, but they weren't correct. So I've made another adjustment. Let me show you what I've done. This is what it looks like now. I'll turn it over so you can see it correctly. What I had done incorrectly is I had not taken into consideration. I still had a huge piece of plastic in here, not realizing that the window follows the curve of the actual roof line of the ship. So this is correct now. So fortunately, I have a sonic laser which cuts through this plastic like butter. So I made a perfect cut. So now that is as it should be. And let me show you the actual filming miniature, and you can see that I am now correct. It's a huge window. Now, curiously, in the actual practical set, there are some differences. The window, for instance, the frame of the window, the centerpiece here, this centerpiece is actually a lot fatter, and these pieces are one color in the practical set. Now, curiously, they're also one color in this application of the filming miniature, but what we don't know is over the years what has happened to this to keep it sort of alive, as it were. So we don't really know what we're dealing with. But now that I've done this, I've got some putty work I have to do in here. So I'm gonna putty that up and get this all this cleaned up so that you can see this gap is going to go away. So I'm gonna do that. Now, I have had some success in sanding these areas down, although they're quite rough. So what I actually might do is pull out some plastic card here, and I might actually glue this in just to clean this up like that. In fact, I am going to do that. I'm going to cut these pieces, and I'm gonna clean this up so that I've got it, so this is nice and square there and on the bottom shelf, because it needs it. And then I can go ahead and if I have to putty that in, which I probably will. That's not helping, is it? There. If I have to putty this in, and I most likely will, and just sand that down, I will. But at least then I know that shelf will be crisp. So let me go ahead and glue that in right now. I've used some evergreen scale model I-beam. This is what I used. And I've just dropped it in here. And what I'm going to do now is clean it up, putty it up, get all this puttied up so that it disappears nicely. We'll sand that. We'll make it look nice, and then we'll give that another coat of primer, and that'll be good to go. Because right now, obviously, it's accentuating that line, but it'll disappear once it's all the same color. But at least now we have nice, crisp windows, and that's a good thing. So let me get that done. For those of you who remember Squadron Green Putty, I had a few tubes left, so I've been using it. So here we are, and I'm going to let this dry in, sand it up, and then we'll prime that, and we should be good to go. And that's nice and clean. Now once I've got that done, I can then cut my windows and have those ready to go. It's sort of tricky because the windows have to go in before I seal the ship. Otherwise, there's no way to get the windows in. So keeping them clean is going to be tricky, but we'll do our best. So that takes care of that. The next thing I've got to do is I've got to pay attention to this bubble right here, because it does sit cleanly now. It sits very nicely, but you'll see on the underneath that I've got some excess bubble here that I have to trim. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to take a few measurements and gingerly get that down just a little bit all the way around, because that will allow me to drop my grid in. But before we glue that up, obviously, we're going to hit this with a little red Tamiya clear, just a dusting of it, because I think it'll help. So that's what I'm going to work on now. I'm going to trim this thing, and I'm going to be really careful because this is all I've got. So if this gets damaged in any way, shape, or form, it's game over. I would have to go in another direction or get a hold of Randy and beg him for another one. Yeah, no, with postage and everything else like that, it's going to cost me a few shekels to get one of these in the mail. So anyway, I'm going to trim this down. I'm going to hit this with a little Tamiya clear, and then we will look at that. There we go. That's better. Nice and clean and looking spiffy. So that is good to go. The next thing I want to do is I want to get a coat of the orange on this. I can't do it today just because it's too late in the day, but I want to get a coat of orange on all of the exterior pieces just to kind of see where we are. And then after I've done that, I think we'll come back and we'll start looking at how we're going to start working the electronics into this and how it's going to be powered, and talk a little bit about the diorama, because it will start to make sense in terms of how I intend to display this. Okay, so let me do that. Let me get a coat of the orange on this, on all of it, and then we'll come back, take a look at that, and then we'll start talking about lighting. I'm playing around with lights in the background and thought I'd let you jump in and look at what I'm doing. So what I'm trying to do is start to think about how this diorama is going to look. The ship has just crashed in my diorama. Lots of vegetation around it. It's sort of sitting in its world. The engines, the teardrop engines, will be pulsing. I've got some diffusion here for that. So that should work. And what I'm doing now is I'm trying to figure out what to do with these lights. Now, on camera, this is going to look very saucy, but there's a little bit of method to my madness, because overall you want this sort of soft look, but I also want it to look a little mechanical as well. And I'm not in love with this, but I'm trying to figure out how to make it a little less saucy. Now, for me here, on the eye, it softens up a little bit. I'm going to try and get some fiber fill and put that in there and see if that's working. Now, these are 0805 SMDs. It's a strip. And if I kill the overhead lights, let's see here. It does, let me kill these overhead lights as well. And I'm going to kill all the lights in the studio for just a second here. Okay. Now, that is, it's not terrible. You can see from this angle that it starts to diffuse and looks a lot better. So I'm not sure. I think that's the way to go. I'm going to put some fiber fill in there and see what that looks like. But I'm not dissatisfied with that. I think it's looking okay. I'm going to play with it a little more, because this is really just to get some ambience. I mean, obviously, I'm intended to make this diorama quite moody. Now, you're going to have a lot of light coming through the cockpit. You're going to have light here from the dome, and you're going to have your pulsating lights from the from my teardrop engines, and you're going to have light through diffusion coming outside the windows for the cabin. So there's plenty of light. It's just trying to make sure that it doesn't look too saucy. So there's a couple of other ways to go, but I think this is going to be the best way to go. I'm going to, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab some fiber fill, put that in here, and we'll take a look at that. Yeah, result, the fiber fill worked. So it's just some of this fiber fill, right? And it really diffuses this quite nicely. Now, obviously, it's not in here perfectly, but that will diffuse this light very nicely. So that is the way to do it. So that's what I'm going to do. And that will take care of the dome on top. I'm going to be super happy with that. I've got some 5mm SMD surface mounting LEDs that I'm going to use for the lights inside the cabin. I've got whites. And I'm not going to light up the engines in the rear. There's no point. I just don't want to. So I don't think there's any need for it. I think there's plenty of source lighting here, and I think this is going to be beautiful. Anyway, you know, I'm sometimes with lighting, I don't know, I get a little wackadoodle about lighting, but it's all good. Very happy with that. That is a result. It's going to look really nice. Obviously, the bubble's not in correctly. I'm going to get a coat of orange paint on everything now, and we'll take a look at it after we've got a coat of orange paint on it. I think you'll agree it makes a huge difference. So very happy with how the lighting situation is coming along, and we will advance the ball. Well, this is an interesting state of affairs. I'm in the process of sort of, you know, getting it all. I was going to sort of put it all together and show you what it all looked like. And I got an email from one of my awesome subscribers, Elliot, and he's sending along a board apparently that will let my breathing teardrops look perfect, he says. So I'm anxious to see that. Now I also have some stuff coming from Voodoo Effects from Randy Newbert. So we are a bit of a test kitchen here, as I like to say. So it's all sort of winging its way here. So what I thought I'd do is just say, hey, look, Mom, look what I've done. We're getting a coat of the orange on here. Now, this is rust orange from Rust-Oleum, rattled cans. It's got one coat. What I'm going to do is let this dry overnight, and then I'm going to get some 0000 wire wool, which is what I like to use, and get this all scuffed up. I could even use 1,000 grit or 2,000 grit. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. And get it all scuffed up, and we'll hit it again. And then, obviously, we'll take the shine off of this after we've given it a paint job and done everything else we're going to do to it, because it's obviously too shiny. But the rust orange, I think, is a great color. Looks are deceiving. It's got a lot more of the oxide brown in it than you think. But yeah, we did a number on it, and I think, as you can see, the putty job on my windows is really nice. That's all nice and clean, and there's plenty of window there for me to be able to, for us to be able to see that cockpit. So things are progressing. Okay, so in the next segment, we'll take a look at these boards that are coming, and I'll have this will be dry, it'll have had a second coat on it, and we can start to sort of assemble things and start to look at how it starts to look. And also I have to make a decision about where the power cord's going to come in, and we will briefly talk a little bit about the diorama, and I think that will close up this episode. Okay? All right, let's stick around. Okay, I'm jumping back into lighting for just a second here, because several days ago I got an email from a friend and subscriber, Elliot, and I'll tell you who Elliot is in a moment. Most of you will probably know who Elliot is. Some of you won't, but if you don't, you should. Elliot is Fedoratron.com, and he has become a friend of the channel, and he is incredibly generous, not only with his wit, his time, and his observations, but also with his support, and oftentimes helps me with some clarity. Well, he kindly sent me an email out of the blue the other day and said, look, I don't know if you're in the same time and space continuum as me, because I know you jump around and these videos don't air, in a timely fashion, which is very true. But in the event that you have not completed the pulsing lights on your Spindrift, I send you a gift. And what this is, well, let's take a look at what he sent me, is a board with 2 pairs of leads running to LEDs, and these are 5 mils, and they're connected to a battery port. Now, this actually, this board says the Alien Menace, Fedoratron.com. It's a very, very, very nicely put together board. There she is, and it's a very nice kit. And well, what does it do? Well, it pulses. So when you put the battery on there, obviously I would put this onto a different thing. But let me get you closer to the action here, and you can see they're warming up, but they will start to pulse. Now, what I have done here is I've actually sped these up quite a bit. You can slow them down, you can speed them up. There's a little potentiometer here on the back, right here, which you can adjust, which I really like, and it will adjust the speed at which these pulse. And there they go, they're breathing. And they're doing a really nice job. And that, of course, is the exact effect that I'm looking for. Now, the other kit comes from Voodoo Effects. It's a board, really, that I needed. I didn't need all of the other stuff that comes with it. But Randy, I consider a friend, and he's very talented as well. And VoodooEffects.com is where you can get lighting kits as well. Besides tenor controls, there's also Voodoo Effects if you want complete kits. And he has a board too, and it does the exact same thing, but it does allow me to add 16 up to 24 lights per board. And now you cannot control the speed of it, but for the application that I'm using, I think it's probably a better fit. But Elliot, I love you for this. I'm going to find a use for this, I promise you. But I encourage all of you to go to Fedoratron.com. That's F-E-D-O-R. Fedora. Hang on, let me get it right, because I'll screw it up, and I don't want to. Yeah, so it is FEDORATRON.com. Here, look, I'll put you back on the board. There it is, Fedoratron. Go check out his website. He's got a bunch of interesting stuff, especially if you're building the Jupiter 2. He's got some nice upgrades for that, for the large and the small versions of it. He's got some very interesting photo masks. He's got some photo etch. He's got some upgrade stuff too. And I actually have. He doesn't know this. Maybe he does, but I purchased a bunch of stuff for him for my Jupiter 2 build, which I'm gonna get to next year. Oh yes. So anyway, pulsing. I have now pulsing lights, and it's interesting. Let me just go to. I want to go to this clip quickly. Let me go to this clip and show you this clip because I think it's really interesting. And if you look as he walks past, there it is. There's our pulsing light, right? And we can see it. And it's going on and off and on and off. And, it does the trick. So I know now just exactly what speed I'm going to need. And I've also decided that in this crash, I'm not going to have a pristine ship. I'm gonna put some of the aging streaks on it and age it down a little bit. I may even put a little bit of ivy around it and stuff like that, as if it's been there for a while. Don't know, but I'm going to have fun with this diorama. A diorama that, again, the inspiration for which was given to me by the guru, the great Lou Del Meso over at Aztec Dummy, who is always putting me in my place, and that's a good thing. All right. So anyway, I wanted to stop and just briefly talk about the breathing lights, because I had mentioned, by the way, that I was going to use the Evans Design breathing lights, and some of my other good subscribers too said to me, Phil, don't do that because over time they'll go out of phase and it won't look right. Well, I do appreciate that, but I think the way this is actually going to be displayed, you won't see the other side of the ship. But you're absolutely right. That's no excuse to not make sure. So while I do love the Evans Design breathing lights, it's probably not a good fit for this kit, and I take that back. I probably overthought that too quickly, trying to simplify my life. But I have got options, and I greatly appreciate Elliot. Bless you. Thank you for this. It's going to come in handy. I promise you we're going to put it in something. I just don't think it's perfect for what I'm doing. But, I have the right to change my mind, and you have the right to disagree with me. Okay, so I have got, in the background, I've got a second coat of the orange paint, and that's drying because these rattle can paints, even though the temperature is pretty decent, they stay tacky for a couple of days. So I'm trying to let it do its thing and dry before I put my meat hooks on it. But I am slowly getting ready to start to build this thing together, and I've got some issues that I want to go through with you in the next segment. So stick around for that. Okay, I don't really want this update to go on and on and on and on and on because it can, and I have to find a reasonable place to cut it off. So I think most likely this will conclude this update. Just to keep it, within a reasonable time frame. So, but there are a couple of issues that I'm dealing with. Just to sort of recap quickly, I am not putting the Randy Cooper entire kit into this build. I'm only using a cockpit. The rest of it will be sealed up, and I will be building the entire Randy Cooper interior separately as a separate model because it's that good and it deserves to be treated that way, in my opinion. But it's interesting working with this PLA piece. And you know, don't get me wrong, it's great to have something of this scale, because it's the only thing out there. There is, as far as I know, nothing else out there. So I'm happy to have it, but it's not without its challenges. If you're trying to put two things together that don't really belong together. Now, Randy has done an excellent job trying to sort of put this together, and you do have to sort of grind and grit your teeth to get it to work. But I've discovered some things that are going to make my life a little easier, but they're also going to give me some challenges, and I just wanted to share those with you before we close out this update. And that is that if you notice, I've got the front plate in here. It's in, and this plate is going to get two appliques on it. Those are the louver crash windows, or if they're not louver crash windows, they're something akin to that sit here, and I have those, and they will go on like this. They lie on like this. Now, in the actual physical set version of this frame is black, and anything you see below this is not orange, it's actually black. Now, in my model here, I've got some challenges, and that is that my kit does something very funky, and I'm bringing this into frame here. Let me show you. The idea is that you drop this piece down into this like such, and that creates your front. Now, when I do that, you can actually see here, let me get something to point with. You can actually see here, I've got gappage. Now, I can do a few things to kind of get that into place, and I think you'll see that as I sort of juggle with this and I push up against it, I can get close, but I can't get it perfect. It's okay, but it's not perfect. And when I do that, unfortunately, there's a little bit of warpage, and so what it's doing is it's causing the back of this to bend. So I'm gonna have to do some creative thinking here, because if I had no interior, if I wasn't going to put an interior in this, I could just find a way to sort of manhandle this and hold this down enough to get some epoxy in there to hold that together. That's not going to be the case here. So here's the challenge. The challenge is that my cockpit over here, what I've discovered is if I try to drop it into the base, then I have a really difficult time trying to align it. So what I figured out is that the smarter way to do it for me is to actually take my cockpit, and I'm actually going to attach it to the inside. Now what this is going to allow me to do is align it correctly inside with the with the actual tip of the window, and you can see in this frame quite clearly that that's what I have to do, because that's all I care about. I only care about that this is lined up correctly with the rest of it, because everything else will drop in nicely. But when I do that, I lose access to this piece here, which is warped. So that is my dilemma. That's what I'm working on. I don't have a perfect solution for it yet. One of the things I'm thinking about doing although this is quite thick, is drilling a hole into this and sort of, pulling it towards me, or packing some epoxy sculpt behind it once the cockpit is in. I don't know, but I've noticed that it is quite warped, and it's just a function of what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. That's just sort of what it is. So I'm gonna have to deal with it, and I'm not sure if I can get it in here perfectly. I'm not sure. When I sit this down, knowing now that the cockpit is going to be in there, and I've got plenty of room for it, so I'm not concerned. But when I drop this in here, like this, you'll see that it's just not. Well, it's not going to behave because you're watching. But you'll see it's just not sitting nicely. Let me see if I can show you there. It's just not sitting nicely in here, in this section right here. It just doesn't want to. So that's going to be a bit of a conundrum for me, and it's quite a big gap. It's quite a big gap. So the other thing I can do, and I've thought about this, believe me, is I can attach this, get this finished and glued, get the windows in, get this all attached, work on the business end to make sure that it's perfect, and then once that is aligned and correct, because I can see it's just not sitting nicely, it's not behaving. I can see it's not behaving. I could then, I suppose, take my cockpit and I could slide it in and slide it all the way back like this, and push it to, let's see here, yeah, let me show you here, and push it to the front like I've done here, and then just sort of try to line that up. And that might be the way to go, because what that allows me to do is then get it all in and sealed correctly, and alleviate that gap. That's what I'm fighting with. But I think you can see that she's looking quite good. I'm pretty far along, but I've got details that have to be worked out here. My bubble has to go in, my top, that has to be covered and lit. We talked a little bit about how I'm going to diffuse the light and get that in. I got to work on that. That's going to take a little time. I've got my windows ready to go. I'm going to attach those, and then I'm going to get some light diffusing material on the back of those, and I'm going to light them with a strip from the top. I've got that ready to go. We talked a little bit about my pulsating lights. I've got those ready to go. The teardrops are ready to drop in. I'm not lighting my engines, but those grates have to go in, and then once that's all done, there's going to be some final puttying. And then, of course, I've got to paint this sucker. But one of the other small dilemmas I have, it's not a big issue, but it's an issue, is my door. And so this door is going to be in the closed position for me. And so once I've got this front in, I most likely will glue this all in, and then what I'll do is I will paint this, because it needs to match this. I'll get this line all lined up. I can get that lined up, paint that, and then I can drop that in the back and glue it in once everything is else done, before I go to the back. That's the only way to do this and get it done nicely. So an awful lot is going on, but you know, it's going to come together. And then, of course, once we've got it all together and we like it, I'm going to age it down and I'm going to put it in its crash site diorama. So that's what I'm doing with my Spindrift. Pretty excited. And I look forward to the third update of this, which will be much further along. But I think that you've seen an awful lot of the sort of behind the scenes here of how I'm putting this together, and I think it'll start to take shape in the next update. So there you go. That's part 2 of Build the Spindrift from Land of the Giants. This is a sort of, it's not studio scale, but it's 24 inches in total, once tip to tail. Very impressive. So excited to have you along. Drop me a line. I'm spruverse@gmail.com. I post pretty much every day on Instagram. I'm Spruverse. And please, if you've just discovered me, click that like and subscribe button. It means an awful lot. Give me a thumbs up. And let's continue on this journey together. But as always, I wish all of you, please, be safe, be well, build something, and I'll see you on the next update. Take care, everybody. Be well.